Hey everybody, it's Peggy. I'm back with another project for you guys to sew along or just to relax and enjoy the process. Either way, today I am making a Brigid's cross. I just did one a few days ago on a live stream, and I thought I would actually do a proper, well, not a proper one. The other one was a proper one. The other one was a proper one, don't get me wrong. But I'll do one today with a little bit less chit-chatting and a little bit less time wasting, and let you guys see the process. That way you'll have it as a bit of a tutorial for your tutorial. Anyway, this one today is, I'm using the same background fabric as I'm using the same cross fabric because I found this nice fabric. It's got a nice little texture to it, so it's going to look like a Brigid's cross. So these are 7 inches long by 1 3/4 inches wide. You need 4 of them. You're going to need a background material to build your cross on. I haven't got this one cut yet, but you're going to want this to be 7 inches wide by, let me just get my measuring tape out and measure. Basically you're going to want enough of this to make that. So you're going to need it to be 7 inches wide by 5 1/4 inches tall. So it'll come out as 7 by 7. You can make them a little bit bigger. I like to make them a little bit bigger and then trim them back because it's a little bit more, I find it to be a little bit more forgiving of mistakes if you go a little bit bigger and then trim it down as you go. I would say get an 7.5 inch by 7.5 inch piece, 7.5 inch by 6.5 inch piece. We're going to cut those in just a second, and this is going to be the back. These are padded, so I am using this isn't the full width, it's only this wide. I am using a nice 100% cotton batting. This one's rated for 10 inches, which means that I only have to put in a stitch line every 10 inches. If you're doing one that's rated, you can do them as, you can find these as rated as low as I believe 4 inches, which means you would just need to put in a stitch line at least once every 4 inches. I can still put all the extra stitches I want in, of course, but I have larger minimums, so I can get away with doing a little bit less top stitching. Anyway, we're going to get started. So this piece here, this project is going to finish at probably by the time I'm done with my seam allowances and squaring things up at the end, it's probably going to end up around 13 by 13. So you want your backing material to be at least probably 15 by 15. That we've got some wiggle room, some adjustments, things can shift, and then it makes it a little bit easier. And of course, obviously, if you don't want to have to get hold of the extra material, you can just make sure that they are 15 by 15. You're going to have a 1 inch all the way around when it's done. So you want to do 15 by 15 as your minimum size piece. I'm starting big and trimming down because I'm working almost entirely from my scrap bin. These are my scrap bin. This is a scrap bin project. These are, I told Lisa I wanted to start calling these scrappies because they're still going. This is going into the shop, but I can put it in for less since I'm spending less on the materials. So that is a factor. Where are my rulers? There are my rulers. I can use that one. So you just want to make straight edge before you trim your fabric. Before you trim your fabric, start off. This has got a selvage on both sides. So I'm just going to go straight across, take both of those selvages off, and I'm also going to do the flip it around. So I said that with this on, 7, so it just needs to be 7 by 7 total, right? So if measuring is a pain in the ass for you, then just measure 7, put that in there and go, why look, 7 by 7, and then add 1/2 inch for your seam allowance, and you can safely cut here. I'm just going to go extra. I don't need to worry about this. This is all leftover fabric for me. And don't forget to check the description. Check the description for the actual list. Basically what I'm doing is I do the video first, and then I sort out exactly what my sizes are later. Because I'm working in a situation where I have extra fabric that I know that I can waste. So I get to be a little bit more careless and get away with it. I'm just going to cut this down to 8 inches on this side. I'm making my pieces bigger than I need. Look at that. Now I've got 2 more pieces to start the next one. Anyway, I'm working with extra fabrics and stuff like that, so I'm not starting. I know when you're watching actual professionals do their videos, they're starting with get a piece that's exactly 7 inches by this many inches, and it's like that very rarely works out for me in the real world, so I'm just not worrying about it. So I've got 2 pieces there, and I just need 2 more. And ideally, if I've given it some thought, I've already gone ahead and taken out, I've already gone ahead and done a search. And, oh, you know what? I bet you I can show you the Brigid's cross in the one that I've already done. Something, I'll do a something. Anyway. So look at that. I've got 4 of these. They can be my next one. They can pay it forward into the next project. I've also got a bunch of this left over. Basically, the story that I've got going on here is that I finally took the time to properly sort my scrap. So with that in mind, and they don't have to be perfect. Look, that's fine. I've got my minimum of 7 inches covered. Once I sew these together, once I sew these on, it's going to be overlooked. These don't even fit perfectly. Anyway, this is a great beginner project. This seems really, really complicated. This is a great beginner project because if the cross is off a little bit, and like I said, if I've already had the wherewithal to find you a photo of Brigid's cross, they kind of look a little, they look very scrappy and messy. They look very scrappy and messy because it's a crossing that you make out of grasses and stuff. So they're never perfect. They're never exactly where you want them to be. So with that in mind, I'm gonna get some better lighting going here. Anyway, so let us move along. I'm not doing anything special for stitch length, just whatever it defaulted to when I started. And don't forget, like I said, I cut these a little sloppy, which I can. I can because I have the luxury of extra material. So I'm just, what you want to be careful of is when this is just called finger pressing. What you want to be careful of is that you're just pressing the seam open. You want to be careful that you're not pressing so hard that you end up pulling this out of shape. Then you'll end up with wobbly seams and stuff like that. And Brigid's cross is incredibly forgiving. Refer back to the graphic that I hopefully had the wherewithal to include. Just go get a quick little Google something and show it to you. Anyway. Yeah, I did one earlier on a live. But we were chatting and we were doing all the things, so I thought you guys would like to see one like this. One where I'm just doing it and hopefully chatting as little as possible. I'm not going to bother backstitching because I don't need to. Get over here, finger press it open, which you've already seen me do. I don't need to show you. Well, I suppose I could show you every single time. These are not hard, and yes, I cheated. I already went and got all the, obviously I already prepped. Everything was ironed. These were by coincidence already cut because of doing a previous one. So I just made sure that they were nice and straight. Cut off any really obvious fraying and stuff. And again, so this one's clearly not a match because I was lazy about my cutting. And if you want to be precise, just make sure that you cut 7 inches. It's not the end of the world as long as one end, as long as your top end, make sure it's the same end every single time, but as long as one end is done properly, the rest of it's fine because you're going to do what's called squaring it up later anyway. So a lot of people look at these kind of projects and they're like, this is a really simple one. It's really easy to get overwhelmed on these projects. I'll show you. You'll see why. Because sometimes, say we're all done here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause this camera and I'm going to wander off, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to give this a blast of the iron. Lots of steam. It's going to take me 2 seconds. But I just don't want to reset. I just don't want to move the camera, set it up, and reset it up again. I'll be back in about 40 seconds. Okay, I'm back. I'm back. I thought I had the camera turned on, but I didn't. So I literally am just starting to put these on here. So if you have cut them, if you've done sloppy cuts like I did here, then just make sure that's pointed towards the outside. And if they're not lining up, like if you're, whoops, that goes there, and that goes there. Okay. And there it is. There's the Brigid cross right there. Now I'm going to sew all of these together, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back and I'm just going to trim all this. I don't mind there being leftover because I left it big enough. I left this big enough that that can be the cross piece for another one or for another project. So what I'm going to do, everything has to be sewn in a straight line. You cannot just come in and sew that, then that, then that, then that. You can't do it that way. Everything has to go in a straight line. So when you pull them ever so slightly apart, if I sew that to that, if I fold these over and sew that, I've got a straight line, right? And just let me sew it. Let me come back. Because what you need is two straight lines, okay? Okay, so I folded that. That's a straight line. And when I pull these apart, that's also a straight line because that has to be a straight line to sew to that. I hope that makes sense. But you're all about your straight lines, and you can put together really, really interesting shapes. There are ways when something isn't quite a straight line, but that is not what we're working on. So you just pull them down. So then I will fold this to here. Now, if you are doing a bunch of these and you need to remember which ones to sew, if this were any bigger, I'd be pinning it anyway for stability. But if you need to know which ones to sew, just put a pin or a clip in. If they're small enough that you don't need to pin them to begin with, just put a pin or a clip in so that you don't forget which side you're sewing, and that way you can line this up to do a dozen at a time. Just remember to keep track of which direction you need to be sewing in. And we're going to do that one. Okay, and we're back over here. And now we're here. Now, the thing you have to remember with this one is that this is supposed to be off-centered. It's really, really tempting to go, oh, it's supposed to be like that. And now these are, when you're doing something for the first time, no matter how easy it actually is, it can seem pretty complicated. Okay, so this is going to there. The right side of this one has to line up to the left side of that one, because that has to be a straight line, and then this will be a straight line. This is automatically going to be a straight line because of the way that you're going to put them together. So I am going to pin this one. I'm going to use actual pins. I'm going to bring this over carefully, line them up carefully. Of course, I put my seams. The best way to do this is to have this seam going that way and this seam going that way. That way, when you are sewing them together, it won't be as, if both seams are going the same way, then it can be really bulky, especially at the corner, especially right here. Well, that's where it will be bulky, because that's the only place where they meet. So just make sure that, and give them a little finger press. Whoops. Flip it over if you have to. And if it's fighting with you and you think you're losing that fight and it just doesn't want to go where you want it to go, take it back to the iron, give it a blast, just use a little bit of steam, and you're good to go. And you don't have to stand there ironing it for hours. I like to use the wool setting. This is cotton fabric. This is 100% cotton, but I like to use the wool setting because I'm just trying to set the seam. I'm trying to work with the seam. I'm not trying to do anything else. Okay. Nope, did that one wrong. Okay, so that lines up to there. It's really tempting. It is really tempting when you see these two being offset to line them up. It really is. Okay, so get these two as lined up as you can. Nestle them together and put a pin in it. Even if you hate pins as much as I hate pins, pin these centers to make sure that nothing's going to shift. And flip it around, flop it around, do whatever you need to do. Look, see, that shifted. That shifted already, and I haven't pinned it yet, so now I got to move it tiniest bit. There we go. Take your time over this center piece. Get that seam, get those two seams to match. That's called your points. The good news is, and I'll show you when I get it flipped over, but the good news is that because all four materials are identical, if they don't meet, it's not going to be as visible. If you were like, if this was black but that was white, I'll show you when I have it flipped over again. Take your time. Don't be afraid to fiddle and don't be afraid to fiddle and fart until it's exactly where you want it to be. Okay. Come back for some vertigo. There we go. Okay, I gotta redo my lighting again. That's not gonna make me happy. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. I've got good lighting over here. I just want to have the best possible view. When I'm filming, I like there to be the best possible view for you guys so that you're not worrying about things. So that's my center here. Hang on to it. Don't pull. Try not to pull, but you can like wiggle and jiggle. This is already sewn down. It's not going anywhere. You can wiggle and jiggle a little bit to the left, a little bit to the right. Just don't use any force. I don't know how to describe this. It's like that little tiny, it's like those little tiny micro adjustments that you do, and just try not to use any actual serious pressure so that you're not stretching your fabric. Cotton can stretch. There we go. Everything was pinned down so I can trust that it's in place, and if you're not sure, just open it up a little bit, double check. Okay, now I'm going to head back to the iron and come back for a quick little ta-da in a second, so bear with me. Okay, ta-da! Now, if you are just looking for, did you hear that? I'm trying to channel Julia Childs, apparently. Okay. If you are just looking for a basic reading cloth, you can stop here, get your ruler out, square it up, which we'll talk, okay, scroll ahead for the squaring up process because I'm not squaring up yet. But if you just want a basic reading cloth and you don't mind about these little edge, there will be a little edge. You can feel that. If you just want a basic reading cloth and you're not worried about doing anything else in this project, then you just want to trim, you just want to square everything up, which you'll do by lining everything up to the center. Like if you want this to be 6 by 6, then you're going to put your 6 mark there. This will make it 12.5 by 12.5 if I go to that line. Always measure out from your center when you're measuring this stuff, because you don't want to, if you go I want this to be 10 by 10, that's 10 inches and that's 10 inches, right? So if you go, I want this to be 10 inches by 10 inches, you can put a 10-inch line there and the 10-inch line there, and then it's going to be everything inside of here, which is not going to be centered, unless that's what you're looking for, of course. So always measure outward from the center point. And just what's your maximum? Oh, this is 6.5. Don't forget seam allowance. So we lost some width here, right? 6.5. So you can go 13. You go 6.5 all the way around. I've showed you in previous videos how to mark it first. If you're not confident, flip it over. If you're not confident, flip it over, measure it from the back, and do it that way. Anyway, I'm over explaining. You can stop here, do that, and then just fold it over and put a hem in, and you're done. So if that's all you're looking for, this is your stopping point. Square it off, finish it up, and you're good to go. We are putting this on batting. So this is what we're gonna do. This has already been ironed. By the way, let me just bring this in. Did you notice that that's not perfect when I had it over here? It's close. It's close. It's a good job. It's close. But obviously, I'm not sure which direction that must have come from, because I had the one direction perfect, so it must have been the other direction. I thought it was just going to be a no-brainer, and apparently it wasn't. Anyway, if your points in the center are not perfect, but your fabrics are all the same, then they're hard to see. They do not affect. You want your points as close as possible, but trust me when I say that unless you're in a quilting competition, this is good. This is good. It's close. It's not going to affect the final outcome, and because of where it's positioned. Anyway, I'm going to put that out of the way for a split second here, because what I'm going to do, I'm going to get out my batting. Now, I want that like that. Sorry. This particular batting has a soft side, both sides are soft, but one side is noticeably softer than the other, and I want that side up. This is also from my scrap pile, so there's nothing wrong with the bat. There's absolutely nothing wrong with the batting. You just have to check it because it's been sitting around for so long. Okay, we got it. Okay. Never be embarrassed. Never be embarrassed if you're pulling something out of your scrap pile, because fabric is freaking expensive. I said freaking, I'm not swearing today. I don't think I've sworn today at all. Okay, so I'm going to get this over here. I'm not going to worry about it being utterly perfect. Now, batting likes to stick to things. So I already know that I'm cutting off. I already know that I'm cutting off everything that's past this mark, past this mark, past this mark. So let that work to your advantage when you're sorting out your batting. Where's my scissors? There's my scissors. Now, it can be really tempting. Batting tears easily. It can be really tempting to want to tear it, but when you do, it stretches and gets all kinds of nasty. So I'm actually going to bring this down the tiniest bit, because that is scrap. So this end is not as even as it should be. There we go. Always expect a certain amount of waste when you are using batting, and then look for ways to use it. I'm cutting right through this. Still got lots of space here. There's a method to my madness. Once I'm doing my top stitching in 2 steps, which I'll explain in a second. Let me get this mess out of the way. Okay. I'm doing my top stitching in 2 steps because I don't want everything showing through here. I just don't. I liked the way it showed up last time on the other one that I did. I did one, like I said, by the time this video goes up, it will have been last week. So what I'm going to do, this line here goes straight through the center, and then joins that line there. I'm going to leave that one alone. That one there goes all the way through and all the way through and leaves that one alone. But this one here is off center. That one is off center. That one is, you get the idea, right? So I am going to do just the top and just the batting. You can skip this. You can skip this step and do. You can even, depending on how your batting is rated. If your batting is rated for 4 inches, you're going to want to put 2 or 3 lines in to make sure that it's all held down. This is rated for 10 inches. I get to skip stuff. I'm going to turn the machine in a second, and then I'm going to turn the machine now. And then what I'm going to do, this is called stitching in the ditch. I'm going to try and line up as close as possible to that seam. And if I'm lucky, I'll be able to get my stitch right exactly in it. And that almost never happens that way, because that's just, like I said, I say this a lot, unless you're planning on entering a quilting contest, it's fine. You still have a good product. You still, like, if it's really bad and you're really off, that's a different problem. But so I'm only doing the offset, going through here. So this is where you really want to have some practice at knowing exactly where your needle's going to land. And that is, like, if I look here, and I can see exactly where my needle's going to land according to, and then measure it out against the foot, because my needle does not land exactly in this little groove. It lands ever so slightly off to one side. So I'm putting my foot slightly off to one side so I can get as close to that ditch as possible. And just because, don't forget, treat your machine's foot pedal like a gas pedal. Just because you can press it all the way down doesn't mean you should. Now, I have issues with dry skin. I bitch about this all the time, so maybe I do, maybe I don't, I don't know. So I'm going to put my quilting gloves on because it'll give me better grip and better control. I mentioned in the live that when you're working with the batting, it gets really, really dusty. And they asked about using a mask, a dust mask of some kind. And I'm not sure that I did a very good job of explaining it. But you don't need a dust mask because it's not that kind of... Basically what it does is it shoves the dust back under the machine. I am going to backstitch a little bit here because I don't want it coming out. And then I'm going to turn it. What I'm doing with this, what I'm doing on this machine, what I'm doing on this machine, I forgot a step. I'll do it on the next side. Because it's one really cool thing is that batting, if you're using, like, you can use an old t-shirt, you can use an old pair of jeans, you can use whatever you want for this step. You don't have to use batting. One of the things I like to use is actually diaper flannel. I've got a bunch of it right now, but I've got 2 blankets to do, and I don't want to but I don't want to use it. I don't want to use it up for other projects until I've made my 2 blankets. One blanket I am making, I'm going to do a speed run and see how quickly I can do a Brigid's cross on a 60-inch by 60-inch light duty, hence the, I keep calling it diaper flannel, and what it is it's flannelette. It's light flannel. Light flannel does not have any restrictions when it comes to how close together you have to put top stitching in. So it makes it really easy. So I'm just starting just off of the end of this, which is one of the advantages of having the extra batting. Going just off the end. I like to start at the end because quite often your starting stitch is a little bit messy, and now it's going to get cut off and nobody has to see that ever. I've got the tiniest bit of fluff stuck to me. It's sticking to the thing. These types of gloves, by the way, all they are is the fingertips have got that rubberized stuff on them. They're just cheap gloves. You can get them on Amazon. You can get them on Amazon for, like, I think it's $20 for like 4 or 5 pairs. Or you can go into your local. These are just generics. You can get better fitting ones by going into your local fabric shop. There's usually a display that has stuff like this on it. They're about $20 to get a better fitted pair, but for basic work like this, what's going on? Back up. Okay, that one's done. If you're not sure where you are, just look on the bottom. You'll find your seam line right there. There are projects where there are projects you can do where you're going to have, like, all kinds of stuff. Like, I could do one of these and then add it to a bigger project. Ooh, that's something I could do. Anyway, let's not go there. Anyway, this is actually pretty simple. This is pretty simple. I'm just talking. I'm trying not to pause too much. So this technique is called stitching in the ditch. I'll get you a close-up in just a second. One of the reasons why I like to go from outside to inside is because on an automatic thread cutter, at the very least, it cuts the thread by pulling everything underneath, so your loose stitches are all under here. Where they're never, you can still trim them, but now you don't have to worry about loose stuff coming up. So this is what stitch in the ditch looks like. That's the side that got stitched. Let's see when. Oh, yeah, there's a little section there where it came out. See how even though it came out, it is so close to the edge. So that's why you want to have, that's why you don't want to do these in black or something like that, because if it comes out of the ditch, it makes it really visible. It's not the end of the world, but you don't want that. Okay. Now we're going to go back like this. So now we get out my friend 505 spray. Now I take off my gloves. Gloves go off, gloves go on. What I forgot to do, and I'm going to do now, 505 spray is really awesome. You barely need any. I forgot to put this on when I started. It's also repositionable. It's like, oh, I screwed that up, I need to move it. It's a temporary adhesive. If you're doing a big project like a full, if I'm doing like a bunch of these, then eventually eventually the adhesive will maybe start gumming up my needle a little bit. But they do not. It doesn't wreck your needles. What does it say? Work on a protected surface. Yeah, work on a protected surface. If you overspray onto your cutting mat, it's a bitch to get off. When I'm working on bigger projects, I actually have a large piece of scrap that I will just put under, and if I spray onto the scrap, I don't have to care. So now we have two more steps. Two more steps. I'm going to do this sideways. I've already ironed this, so I can just kind of, it's got a little bit of mark on, it's got a little bit of, it's not super creased, it's just because I threw it in a corner. So we're going to go like that. So this is going to go like that, but I need a minimum 1 inch all the way around, right? So I skipped a step. Let me just back up. So I just want to double check and make sure it's going to at a minimum meet my needs. I forgot one step. Let's go here. And let's get the bigger ruler. So everything's been kind of sprayed down a little bit. Where's my ruler? My ruler escaped. My ruler did escape. There's a ruler. There's a ruler. There's another ruler. I will say, do not rush out to buy yourselves 100 rulers. Don't do it. But as you're sewing, pay attention to what sizes. This is a 15-inch ruler. This is a 6 by 12-inch ruler. This is a 4 by 14-inch ruler. This is a 12-inch. This is a 12.5 inch because the edge around here lets me get my seam allowance, and this is a 12.5 by 12.5 inch ruler. But there is about another 100 of these that I could go out and get. I've got a 20 by 20 over there and an 8.5 by 24 over there. These can get pricey. Now I don't know if the prices have managed to come down or not. When I bought this was a $30 ruler. Not the end of the world. I put it to good use. I use it every day. But if that is not what you do, if that doesn't work for you, then figure out what does. And figure out what does before you spend. Figure out what you need before you start spending the money. Okay, this is going to finish at 13 by 13. Because what I'm doing, you follow along your diagonal, 6.5 goes to the center, 6.5 goes to the center. That's going to be, nope, that's a little, no, that'll work. That's barely, but it'll work. That one's the one that's a little bit off anyway. Okay, so this is going to go 13 by 13, and you start by measuring from the center. So measure against your lines. Figure out where they're going to go. Figure out what meets what, because I already pointed out if you start off on one side measuring, you're going to get an offside. You're going to get an offside measurement, and it's not going to look right. Okay. Nope, that's got to go there. Take your time. Take your time getting ready. Okay, this one here at the bottom is going to be off by the tiniest little bit, but I already know I'm going to have a 1/2 inch seam. I'm going to have a little shy of 1/2 inch going all the way around as my border, and that is going to comfortably fall back inside. So I'm going to cut. And look at that. I got another piece for my next, got another piece of scrap for my next one. So you just cut, oops, don't let it shift. Just leaned into it and I leaned into it funny. Sometimes, generally speaking, it's usually better to get right up and over it, standing. For me personally, it's easier to use a slightly bigger ruler and then cut. It's usually better for me, easier for me to use a slightly bigger ruler this way. You can get the same effect with a 12 by 12, but I'm so used to doing it this way. And now just put the 13 against the 13. Take your time. Make sure everything else in here lines up the way it's supposed to. Don't rush, because you don't need to. There you go. Hold it down. Always cut away from yourself when you're cutting across. These have a safety, by the way, so if you accidentally push it. I like this particular, I like this, this is an Olfa brand cutter, but the thing I like about this is that you can lock it so you can't accidentally open it. When it's unlocked, as soon as you're done, it's automatic and it springs back. Most of them are automatic and spring back. I just found that this one here, this is a Fiskars. This is a Fiskars that's actually a little bit broken. The Fiskars here does come back, but because of the way it's designed, every now and again it catches, but it doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, you want to be really careful on this stuff, and you really want to be careful how you use that. So now, I'm just babbling as I go. I am just babbling as I go. So this part's done. Now we're gonna lay this. Now we're gonna lay this back out. So the first time I got it out, the first time I got this bottom out, I really didn't need to. But if you haven't double checked your sizing, before you start cutting is a good time. Well, then again, after you start cutting, you can't do anything with this until it's in. So you want this to be a minimum. This is 13 by 13. This finished at 13 by 13. So you want this to be a minimum of 14 by 14. The reason why I always cut at least 15 by 15 is because then I've got wiggle room. So I want this to be at least an inch all the way around. There it is. You can use your big ruler, you can use your small ruler. It's a little over an inch. I am not trimming, I'm just going to do 2 inches for now. This is my personal preference. If you want to do 1 inch by 1 inch right now, that's absolutely fine. So you just measure what this finishes out as, and then cut this piece of cloth minimum of 1 inch bigger. I have a slightly different personal process that I like to use, which is what I'm showing you now. I am showing you now as we go. So this is back to the 505 spray. So we're going to just go lightly. I don't know if you've noticed how few pins I've used so far. 505 spray, and I've talked to people, I've heard from people who are like, they hate pinning. To the point where they won't sew because they have to pin. If you hate pinning, then it's a really great way to avoid pinning if you use this product. Okay, just make sure that whatever you're getting is called temporary adhesive. This is 505 by Odif. It's really popular. It's super popular. I think it's one of the best in the markets. I've tried a bunch in the past. It has a slight odor when you first spray it that goes away within a minute. You don't need a mask. You don't need to protect your breathing in any way, shape, or form. It's temporary. It's repositionable. So it's kind of, I don't know how to describe it. Sometimes something people also like to use are glue sticks, but I think the glue sticks dry. This stays flexible. This stays flexible. You'll never know it's there. Some of the other temporary adhesives that are out there, they stiffen as they dry. So for this one, now we are going, this is where we stitch in the ditch to get that started. Now I'm going through the bottom, the batting, and the top. I'm starting from the outside. I'm starting at one end. And I'm getting as close to the edge as possible. I do not need to back stitch because this is going to get folded over as a, this is called self-binding technique. Now you can back stitch if you want, if you feel more comfortable. So again, we're stitching in the ditch, and again, I'm going to stop and get my gloves. Now, it's easy to want to pull. Try not to pull. I do sometimes put a little bit of pressure outwards, just to make sure that things aren't like bunching up and stuff. But that's personal preference. Now I'm coming to this one that's a little tiny bit off center, so I'm not going to try too hard to do anything. I'm just going to come off to the. I'm going to come at a slight angle. A couple of stitches are going to be outside the ditch as I meet up with the other one. And you're just going to go to the edge. If you are using a thread cutter, what's going on here? My machine doesn't like me today. Pull that back. Do-do-do. Take your time. This is also a really good one. If you're sewing by hand and don't have a machine handy, this is actually a good one to do by hand because obviously positioning into that ditch, super easy. Okay. Doop. Back over here. Okay, and we're back over here. I just had to stop and restart my camera, so I did. So we're going to take our time now. Gloves off again. It depends on what I'm doing. Sometimes the gloves stay on, sometimes I don't. Just had to have a little drink. Okay, don't worry if it has a little teeny tiny... There it is right there. Don't worry if it has a little teeny tiny pucker. That's just every now and again things shift in the tiniest bit, and that's what it does. It's not hurting anything. Your final it will not be visible on your final product. It's not a mistake. It's just the fabric decided it hated you for a split second there, and oops, I can go over there. It's big enough. So I am just lining up my ruler along the edge of the fabric here, and I've got 1 inch. I'm measuring 1 inch, and now, because no matter what you do, whether you cut it to 1 inch initially or wait till this stage, you still have to come back and square it up because things do shift, and you get less and less of that as you go. But don't fight it. It'll come. Don't worry. So I find that if I come back and do this, if I do it first and something shifts, I might end up with one section that's that wide and another section that's that wide if things shift in ways that I'm not predicting, right? I find that if I come back and trim it second, if I start off a little bit big, then trim it down, I have a much more consistent and professional looking edge. And since I plan on selling this, I really want it to have that edge. Oh, wait. Lisa doesn't have one of these yet. I plan on selling it. Wish me luck. Okay, this is a spot here. Let me see if I can get in a little bit. This is a spot here. Remember I said that one spot was just a little tiny bit off? See, it's just off by like somewhere between 1/8 and 1/4 of an inch, right? So this is 1 inch. This is going to fold in half. That's about 1/2 inch. And that's going to fold over. As long as this is folding over, look, this is going to fold over and still leave more than 1/4 of an inch. as long as this folds over, leaving more than 1/4 of an inch, you do not have to go back and correct these. If this happens by accident, or in this case by design, I could have just made it 1/4 of an inch. I could have just brought this in and made it a tiny bit smaller, but this isn't really anything that you need to worry about. As long as it's not going to affect the quality of the finished product, and it's not. If I thought it would, I would never, well, if I thought it might, it would just never be for sale, but it's not going to. So we're going to do this on 2 sides. We're going to just fold it in half again, clip it on. Come on. So once they're like this, let me see if I can show you this one a little bit. Let's get down there. Get down there. Show me. Okay, let's do that. So when they're clipped like this, just do it to the end. Go to the end. Ignore this weird looking stuff here. Go to the end, fold it in half, fold it again, right? Hold it down, run your finger under it, and it just wants to fall. Once the center is done, then it just wants to fall into place. Just instead of trying to do it from the center out, do it from out. Make sure that this is lined up to the edge the way it needs to be, and then it'll just fall into place. Fold it in half again. Don't forget, this one had a weird little pucker in it, so instead of fighting with it, and now there's no pucker. That one I may have to shift because I think it just went up a little funny. Let's get back out so you guys can see everything. So ignore this, do it from the end, do it like that. Now, I skipped a part. Well, I didn't skip a part, I skipped telling you about a part. Okay, if you are not using 505 spray, before you start doing these, you'll want to lightly press that down and put pins, at least in the corners. And depending on how big your piece is, you may want to put one here. This is already sewn down. That's sewn down. These two are sewn. These are all sewn down on both sides. You don't have to worry about them. They're not going anywhere. But these corners could still flop around. I've used the 505 spray, so it's already in place. But if you're not using a 505 spray, you do want to pin your corners before you do this part, so that nothing's going to shift on you. That did shift. Okay, so I'm just gonna. I thought it did because it looked like it was folded up a little too far. I'm just gonna do that. Then I'm gonna do that. Just take it out and put it back in again. Now, if you are concerned going, I'm afraid this is going to shift, either put in more clips or just run it over the ironing board. You can, this is a cotton batting, and as long as your batting underneath is cotton or high temperature tolerant, then you just go give it a quick little blast with the iron, and then you don't have to worry about it moving around or shifting or unfolding. Okay, I'm going to try this with just my left hand glove on only. You can tell I use these a lot. This has been through the wash. I don't know how many times. Now it's starting to get. I've got one pair that's been through the wash so many times, and now the dirt. I use a lot of black to line my bags, and to I use a lot of black for lining my bags, and for as backing materials and stuff like that for reading cloths. So I don't use crappy quality cottons. What I use is so much of it that eventually the color will start adding up. Most fabrics will let off a tiny bit of color, but it takes a lot. Anyway, so this, I am just putting my stitch in as close to the edge as I can get. Let's see if I can get a good close up for you. Right behind. Oh, that looks perfect. I'm not going to touch nothing. So as you can see, I'm putting a stitch. I'm trying to keep it as close to 1/8 of an inch as I can. Put it in whatever you need it to be, but try and keep it close to that. It's more important that you try and keep a straight line than you try and keep it close to the edge line. So if you can only succeed at one thing, try to make it straight. And if instead of pushing in from here with your face up here, instead of like pushing in like this, come back, like when you're driving. Like when you're driving, they say, look ahead, right? Get a little distance. Just because you can go fast doesn't mean you have to go fast. Take your clips out as you go. Okay, so I've been teasing for a while now. I'm doing a Brigid's cross for Lisa, and I've already shown that more than once. I don't think I need to show it again. I showed it in the live a few days ago. And then I'm doing, I don't know why I backstitched. I didn't need to. But that's okay. You could, just because you don't need to doesn't mean you're not allowed to. So I am going to be giving away a full size one. I just have to get to it, and yeah, it's going to be a bit. It's going to be a bit. I want to film the process, and so I need Lisa. For at least a couple hours for filming. Ideally, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get it going and have. Ideally, what I'll do is get it going, and if I get super lucky, I'll have it done in like a day. I don't think I'm going to put up a 5-hour video though, so I don't know how I'm going to make that look. Maybe I'll have a timer going in the background. I'll ask her about that, see if we can set one up. She's been doing YouTube videos longer than me, so I always double check with her if I want to do something out of the ordinary. It's like, hey, I want to do this. Does it work? I will say that when you get the hang of it, you'll get straighter lines if you can go a little faster. Just like in a car, when you're driving your car, if you're driving slow, it's really tempting to go around every single perceived anything that might be in your way. Okay. Doop, 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 doop. Doop, doop, doop. Now we do the next one. It's my clips back again. We're almost done. Almost done. You guys are almost done with me. I may edit this somewhat just to make the video itself a little bit faster. But we'll see. Now this one here, the last one I beveled. This one I'm just going to fold straight up. If you're going to fold it straight up, then just make sure that your loose threads are off. Straight up, straight up. Pin that down. If you're going to fold it straight up, make sure that you line that up with that. Put that like that. I'm going to put an extra clip in. I'm going to put an extra clip in because I don't want that to shift. Don't forget, if you got a little bit of a schmutz right there, just extra thread. Nothing got on it. It'll get folded down. Make sure that's on the edge. Make sure that's clipped in place. And you can do one at a time. Some people like to do these one at a time just so that they can fully concentrate on each one. I'm just taking off a little bit of loose thread. Don't forget, when you sewed from here to here, your ending threads are here. And I think you can see that one there. So you just gotta, you gotta cut them, you gotta trim them off at some point. It's easier to trim them off now because there's going to be a stitch going across it. There's going to be a stitch going across that from the back. This stitch is going to go across the back, right? So you don't want to pin that down. There we go. Got it. I think I got it. If I didn't get it, I can come back for the rest later, so that's fine. Okay. Still going to start in the center. Fold that up. Come back to the end. Just making sure all the crappities are off. Now, there's a couple things that you can do. And I'm going to put one here. Whoop, that one's almost off. These these look just as good whether they're beveled or not beveled. Beveled is a cuter effect, actually, to be fair. I like beveling. Beveling can be nice. Anyway. Okay. So now, follow me. Do-do-do. This is where your tweezers can come in really handy. So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you first because it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard to show you once we're right into the machine. But I'm actually going to start here, back up to the corner, and then stitch. Because if you start here at this edge, you've got 2, 4, 6 layers. You've got 3 layers, each layer comprising of fabric fabric. You got a lot of fabric. You got a lot of fabric in here, plus one layer of batting. So when you're trying to start it like this, your machine's got to climb up, and you're likely to have a problem. If you start forward, use your tweezers to hold everything in place. Start forward. Put the first stitch even in by hand. I'm just at the end. I haven't got my foot on the pedal at all. I'm just at the end. I got my needle down. I spun the thing at the end here, over at this end, over there, so that I can bring it down by 1. And now I'm going to start by just back stitching, and I'm going to do it slowly. This machine goes forward, and then I'm going to forward stitch. It holds that corner in much better, much more strongly. Do-do-do. Okay, give that a little. And we just go. Oh. Every now and again with these clips, I don't know if you guys just saw this clip caught and started sliding. So keep an eye on your clips because they can get caught. If you've got uneven spots, they can catch up in them. Pins are always stronger and hold better than clips. I just find clips to be easier to work with. So this is straight across. I'm going to hold that with my tweezers. Or I'm going to let it fall right out of the tweezers. I don't need the tweezers just yet anyway. Okay. Bring that up. Make sure that that's where it needs to be. I'm just double checking and making sure that that fold is staying lined up with this area here so that it doesn't come out of position. All the way to the end. And because I want it to be reinforced, bring it all the way back. Now I'm going to cut it. Okay. I have a little rogue piece of batting that got in here. It'll come out. Oh, it was already there. It was already off. We're good. It's there. That's the stitch. That's the beginning stitch there. I like to trim as I go, especially for these smaller projects, because it can be really, really, I don't want to say hard. It's not hard to remember something, but it can be a real pain in the ass to have to go back later. Okay, so double check that. Hold it right there. Get it in there. Get it lined up. Take your time. I'm lucky I've got the top stitch. Now, it's really tempting to want to use an adhesive spray under here. I would advise not to. I've got an adhesive that maybe I'll show you soon. There's an adhesive tape. Nope, I don't have it out. There's an adhesive tape where you can put the tape down and then fold over onto it, and it holds everything beautifully. It's expensive though. I think it's expensive, but look into products like that. If you're having trouble keeping stuff like that lined up, go to your local fabric store. Let them know what your problem is, because trust me, there's a product for it. What's going on here? Oh, that's this loose thread. Okay. If you spot a loose thread, and it happens to be laying across your project, I don't know if you guys can see it, but it's helping me for the reference. If you spot a loose thread, especially if it's underneath or something. Once you sew it down, once you sew it down, depending on how how it stitches over, it can actually be really annoying to dig it back out. So if you spot those threads, take them out, take them off as you go. Okay. Oh, there we go. And we just take our time. I'm doing it this way because it lines my, it lets my tweezers go right into that little groove that's already naturally there. And backstitch back the last little bit. Oh. And we is done. This is finito. There we go. And now we have a Brigid's cross. Now what I will do is I'll go give it a quick shot with the iron, because there was a couple of things that were trying to crease up a little bit on me as I was going, and whatever. I'll clean it up a little bit with a quick little shot of the iron, and I'll get that in the shop. And it's done. Anyway, that is a Brigid's cloth. That is a Brigid's cross on cloth. It's a really easy design to make. You can take multiples and put them side by side and make a blanket. Like if I was to have left these open to do a big blanket item, that would look really cool. But anyway, that is it. Thanks for hanging around with me for today. Anyway, that's a Brigid's cross. Thanks for hanging around with me today. I really enjoyed showing this to you. I can't wait to come back with some more stuff soon. In the meantime, you guys have a great day. Stay out of trouble or stay in trouble, whatever your preferences may be. Don't forget to like, subscribe, ring the bell, do all the things. I'm trying to take over the world one subscription at a time, and I need your help. And in the meantime, you guys have a great day, and I will see you soon. Bye.